Welcome to another episode of the Einstein Retirement Daily, where we curate financial, economic, and market news for the headlines that affect today's retiree. In today's episode, we're going to discuss what is the maximum Social Security benefit. As always, should you hear something in today's podcast that causes you to want to take some action, do something, we encourage you to please not take this podcast as specific tax, legal, or investment advice. Should you want to take some action based on something you hear in today's podcast, please confer with the appropriate tax, legal, or investment professional prior to taking any action, making any decisions. Sorry I've been gone for a couple of days. For those of you who are avid listeners, this is probably a 2-day, hiatus since I did one of these podcast episodes. So if you were in the habit of listening, I'm sorry to break up your habit. But I needed to accomplish some other things that were pulling my attentions away. And so we have those things a little bit more under control, mostly in my business and practice. So those things are actively running and working now. And so maybe I'll share that some other time. But for today's episode, we're going to discuss the topic of Social Security, and I thank you for those of you who are avid listeners. And we know that many of you who are first introduced to us are introduced to us because of our live Social Security workshops that we do, and so this will obviously be an interesting topic for those of you who first got your interest in us from our discussions around Social Security. For those of you who have interacted with us in other ways, Social Security is one of our areas of expertise. So if you have never attended one of our live workshops, I'd love to see you at one of those events. And you can send us a message through Facebook or YouTube to register for one of those events. But let's attend to the question. So Fox Business reported an article that was actually originally reported from the Motley Fool that discussed this idea about Social Security and what it would take to maximize your benefits. The headline specifically highlighted the fact that it looks as though the new quote-unquote maximum benefit could break $4,000 next year. And so I want to talk a little bit about why that maximum benefit goes up every year and also how that could possibly be affecting you. So one of the things to remember about how Social Security benefits are calculated is that it has to do with the earnings that you've had over the last 35 years. So when you're trying to figure out what is my Social Security benefit going to be, how could I increase my Social Security benefit, the thing to bear in mind is that Social Security is using the highest 35 years of what is called indexed earnings. So these are earnings that are earnings that you have had over your lifetime, but it's not the earnings only in the past that are being used. It's after they have been indexed or increased for inflation, that's the number that's used. So hypothetically, for example, if you had $20,000 of income in the year 1980, that would be worth more than $80,000 because you would multiply it by 4 and change. So it'd be worth more than $80,000 when Social Security is calculating your benefit. Now there's a maximum amount of your earned income that will be taxed by Social Security. I don't have those numbers memorized off the top of my head, but it's a little over $190,000 in the year 2021. And that number typically increases with inflation. The more you hit that cap, in fact, you'd have to hit that cap for at least 35 years out of all the years you've been working in order for you to get the max Social Security. So in order to get the max Social Security, you have to hit the cap every year for 35 years. That's number one. Number two is that once you have, let's say, capped out every year for 35 years, the way your benefit is calculated is by taking those 35 years, indexing for them for inflation. If you cap out 35 years, they're all worth basically the same amount. And then you add bend points to that. So for lower wage earners, you get a higher percentage of replacement income. So your lower income is much more replaced from Social Security than if you're a higher wage earner. If you're a higher wage earner, you're in the 32% and the 15% basically kind of a reimbursement calculation, if you will. Maybe I should do a total talk on bend points, because I don't have them memorized. I know how they work, but I don't have them memorized. But it's like the first $900 of income, average index monthly earnings is what it's called, average index monthly earnings. The first $900 of that is recaptured for your Social Security benefit at a rate of about 90%. Above that, it drops down to 32, and that's for like the next couple $1,000s. And then above that, it's a very small percentage, only 15% is recaptured for your Social Security benefit. So higher wage earners do not enjoy a very large Social Security benefit in the same way that a lower wage earner gets a fairly high replacement income from their Social Security. That is how it is a extra tax from the rich to give to the poor, in a sense. So Social Security is a take from those who did really well to give to those who did not quite do so well. Now, the idea, you can argue whether that's good or bad. The idea, of course, is that higher wage earners had opportunities to accumulate other benefits, things like pension benefits, putting extra dollars into other savings programs like 401ks and IRAs and that sort of thing. So that is the reason why Social Security replaces more income for lower wage earners. However, having said all that, what's your maximum benefit? So typically speaking, because of how the indexing factors get calculated every year, generally you're going to see you're going to see an increase every year. One exception to this would be 2008 to 2009. 2008 to 2009, there was actually deflation, and the maximum benefit went down. So the maximum benefit in 2008 at full retirement age of 66 was $2,755. The maximum, sorry about that. I said that wrong. The maximum benefit in today's dollars is $2,755. The maximum benefit in 2009 in today's dollars is $2,735. And so, again, that's because of the indexing factors on your benefit. Now, the maximum benefit in 2021 for someone filing in 21, so let's be clear, this isn't for future filers. This is for people who are about ready to file for benefits. The maximum benefit, if you file at the age of 62, is $2,324. That's the maximum benefit for someone filing at the age of 62 this year. Okay, to be clear, it's this year. I wonder if you can hear that thunder. You probably can't see out my window that there's rain and thunder, but there is. But if you hear it, yes, it is a storm going on out there. Okay, so if you are turning 65 this year, the maximum benefit, assuming you capped out for 35 years on your taxes, is $2,841. And assuming that you capped out every year for the last 35 years, that doesn't have to be the last 35 years, but for 35 years in the past, your maximum benefit is $3,113. And for those of you who are turning 70 this year, the maximum benefit is $3,895. Now, there are many people who are, let's say, 55 to 62, let's say, that probably could get to over $4,000 a month by 70. And the reason that could happen is because of the cost of living adjustments and the increases in the amount of taxable income that participates in the Social Security system every year. Since those two items typically go up every year, the COLA, the cost of living increase, as well as the amount of your income that could be subject to taxes for Social Security, that will very likely push many people who are 62 and younger today to have a maximized benefit of over $4,000. And really won't even need to be maximized. If you're 60 now and your full retirement age benefit is in that 3,200 range, likely by 70 you'd be over 4,000. So just bear those types of variables in mind. But what the article was highlighting is that because of the inflation factor that we're seeing and expecting for this year, very likely maximum retiree benefits for those turning 70 next year, if you maxed out every year your Social Security taxes, likely it's going to push you over $4,000 a month. So that is the likely maximum amount for next year. I get a question very commonly, what's my max benefit? And it's almost impossible for me to answer that right there. It is calculatable, it is possible to figure out, but it would require you to know the year that you were born, the taxes that you have paid, actually really just the year that you were born. If you know the year that you were born, you can figure out what your maximum benefit would be, but only in today's dollars, not future dollars, okay? You can know what it is based on today's dollars, but future dollars, it's yet to be determined. Okay, because this changes every single year. All right, as always, I'll link the article. I'll also put a link to the Social Security table that shows those maximum benefits. And with that, we'll wrap up for today. Look forward to seeing you next time. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel or followed our Facebook page, we'd encourage you to do that. We'd love to see you at one of our live events, and we will talk to you next time.